Welcome to the Virginia is for Laughers podcast, brought to you by X2 Comedy. If you're looking to get more out of your Shenandoah Valley experience, then this is the podcast for you. You'll meet interesting people, musicians, and comedians that perform here and find out more about what you can do and see. Whether you live here or plan to visit, listen to explore what makes our unique slice of heaven. Now here's your host, Don Davis Womack.
Hello, Lappers. I'm excited to introduce you to comedian Adam Bush. Adam is a writer and nationally touring comedian. He won a contest to open for Mike Birbiglia on Broadway at the beginning of his stand-up career in 2018. He performs for colleges, churches, clubs, and nonprofits. His special, A Night of Storytelling and Comedy, can be seen at heyadambush.com. And his Dry Bar comedy special premieres in 2023. Welcome to the show, Adam. It's great to have you on today.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yes, this is so exciting. You are coming to Harrisonburg in February to perform in the X2 comedy series at Court Square Theater. Yes, I'm so excited to work with you again, and I'm really looking forward to this interview. I know it's our second time.
Second time. Second
time. Oh, were you going to say something? Did I miss it?
Oh, no. Excited to be coming for the second time.
Excellent. Well, let's get into this. Home base for you is Tulsa, Oklahoma, though I understand you grew up in Louisiana. What was it like? Yeah, that's true. What was it like?
It was different. It was a different experience. You don't know what you don't know when you're in it. But when I moved away from Louisiana, I was like, oh, growing up in Louisiana is quite a bit different than living in other parts of the country. It's, I lived there because my folks were preachers, and that's where they took us when I was really young, and lived in a very small town, about 12,000 people. And, it was it's very, very Southern it's just outside of Shreveport is the town that I grew up in. And, I think maybe looking at it now, I can see that a very tight knit community in a lot of ways. I mean, talk about like everybody knowing everyone. Like you live in a town of 12,000, you know most people. You run into the same people all the time. In my school, there were like 90 kids in my graduating class, and it's a lot of really positive things. Louisiana is a really beautiful state and has a pretty incredible, community of gaming. But it's also very hot. And when I say it is very hot, I mean, like, it's so hot. It's
my gosh.
It feels like it's like 100 degrees every day, even during Christmas. It's so hot. Yeah.
Did you ever fry an egg on the sidewalk?
You probably could. That's not a joke. You probably could. I remember I went. Yeah, you probably could during the summer. Because you couldn't walk on the sidewalk with just your bare feet. When I was a couple of years ago, I went back there and just forgot how hot it was. And I live in Oklahoma, and it's hot in Oklahoma, but it's nothing like Louisiana. And I walked outside in the morning with jeans on, and I just went back in my hotel room and put on shorts. It just was like 8:00 in the morning. It's so hot.
Wow.
And the fire ants are incredible. Like you can't walk in the grass. I don't know if people know that because there's fire ants everywhere. And so you will immediately get destroyed by fire ants. So, has its downsides.
I hear the food is really good though. I mean, I've had some.
I miss it. I do miss the food. I'm driving back this weekend, and I'm driving through Louisiana, and I thought, I wonder if I should swing through some of my favorite places and grab some food. It's great. Yeah.
What are some of your favorite dishes that you miss or make in Oklahoma that remind you of home?
I don't make anything. That reminds me of anything. I don't make anything. Crawfish season is just the best. I mean, crawfish is pretty. It's very difficult to eat and worth all of the trouble. So I'm a big seafood fan. It's, anything. I mean, it's super fresh. It's from the Gulf. So, any of that is pretty. I think I probably only eat that stuff when I go down to Louisiana and not in Tulsa.
Not in Tulsa. Yeah. So what brought you to Tulsa, Oklahoma then from Louisiana? How did you get there?
I'm a preacher's kid. And that's my whole life. And so my dad got a new preaching gig here in Tulsa. And so we moved when I was in high school, my junior year. My mom was from here, so it wasn't a crazy move like to a place that we didn't know anyone. I mean, a lot of our family was here, and I made friends pretty quickly. I mean, I missed my community back home, but wasn't that far, about 5 hours away. So so we moved to Tulsa, and Tulsa is where I found my wife and my community that I have now. And we have been, it's the longest I've lived anywhere. We've been here, I think this year will be, I think it's 25 years that I've lived in Tulsa, Oklahoma now. So it is officially home. I have no plans of ever moving. I have almost moved, and I'm glad I didn't. And I would like to live here for the rest of my life.
Oh, that's great. What do you love about Tulsa that you want to live there the rest of your life?
Well, Tulsa is a great place to raise kids. It's a great place to own a home. So those are two big, check boxes. It's the people. I love the people here. All of my, it takes a lifetime to, build relationships. And it has been 25 years of building relationships. We live next door to some of our best friends in the world. And just my community is here. That's the big thing. I think that it's also a great place to live as a comic because you don't have to live in New York or Chicago or LA anymore. You can live wherever. You can get on the internet, and the airport is incredibly easy to get into and out of. So it's 10 minutes down the road. I'm going today. I can just hop a plane and be wherever I need to be and then come back home. I think that it is incredibly desirable to live in a place where there seems to be a lot of opportunity, like Los Angeles or New York. But I think without the right people, it will be shallow. And I do not live a shallow life here in Tulsa. I have a very fulfilling, happy, exciting, loving community that I'm a part of. And I think if you find that, you're a pretty lucky person.
I would agree with that 150%. I love that so much. And I like what you said about how you can do these days comedy from anywhere, hopping on the internet. I know that a lot of comics got into some Zoom comedy over the pandemic, and that led to a lot of opportunities. So was that part of your story during the pandemic? And now you're doing some comedy online? Is that what you're referring to when you say you can live anywhere?
Well, I would say I did do a little bit of that. Yeah. I mean, when I've been a comic for 4 years this month. And when I really got into it is right when the pandemic hit. So like it got shut down pretty quickly. And so, yeah, I did do a lot of Zoom comedy, and I used it as an opportunity to just write and see if a joke would make it. I mean, Zoom is pretty impersonal. And so I thought if people laugh on Zoom, chances are it's a pretty good joke. And so a lot of that material has made it into my sets. And I've made friends that I've done shows with in different states, and that was really helpful. But I think for me, the bigger advantage has been posting on YouTube and TikTok and Instagram. Yeah. So I've gotten a lot of opportunities from people being able to see me versus the way that it used to be, which was, before social media, like you had to live in one of those cities so that someone from the Tonight Show could see you.
Right.
It's not like that anymore. Yeah. I mean, there are still worthy advantages to living in those cities, but it's different now. It's a lot different. I mean, you go back and read, you go back and watch a special or a documentary about like the Comedy Store or, Seinfeld's, career, or go back and, read a book about, whatever comedy related, you'll find that like, oh yeah, it's just a different beast now.
It is. Social media is changing the landscape for comics. In fact, you're on TikTok and growing quite the following while we're talking about social media. Let's get into that. I haven't made that leap yet. So it sounds like you weren't hesitant to do it, or were you? And then also, what will people find on your page? I guess clips. Yeah, I think you have clips of your comedy on there. Talk to us about that a little bit.
I wasn't nervous to put anything online. I think that what really helped me and really helps anyone, whether they had this experience or not, or could grow, is I have a video editing background. I mean, before I was a comic, I dabbled in graphic design and video editing and video shoots like a lot of freelancers do. And so moving into comedy pretty quickly, I was like, oh, this is a skill set that's really going to help me. And so it didn't take too long before I kind of figured out, like, if I'm going to take this seriously, I'm going to have to start posting online. And, it's a form of marketing, but it's a little unique in that I'm instead of just like being so in your face about the way a commercial is, I'm just posting jokes and stories that I hope people find interesting. And if anything, I'm just looking to, entertain people and give them a little bit of joy when they're watching my stuff or come across it on TikTok. And so I pretty quickly, one of the things that I felt that I think a lot of local comics really, a pit they fall into is just so many, like doing a show is great, but it doesn't live much longer past that. And once it's done, it's sort of done. Now, there are people that you'll meet and they'll see a set and be like, hey, you should come do this other show. But especially in a smaller community, like Tulsa has a great comedy scene, but it is still smaller. And so we don't have agents coming around looking for, whatever next comic. And so pretty quickly, I was just like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to have to film it. And so I started filming just pretty simply, just some of the stuff that I had done on my phone. And then I've got a camera and would hire guys for a little bit or ask for a favor, like, hey, we can film my set for me or whatever. And a lot of times it wouldn't work out. It just like, I didn't have a good set or the crowd was terrible in regards to it was small. And so the laughter just wasn't very big, or I bombed, or the lighting wasn't good. And so I wouldn't want to put it online. But eventually, like, I started to figure out, like, okay, this kind of place is going to be good for lighting. And if I work really hard, there's a good chance that I'm going to have a good set, and I know this promoter. And so it's a lot of stars aligning, but I think now I'm able to say, like, okay, I know what I'm getting myself into. I want to film it. I record every set, like the audio, because I need to remember correctly if a joke actually hit. It's really easy as a comic to be like, that joke killed. And then you listen back to it and be like, oh, it didn't do as well as I thought it did. So I always do that, especially it's helpful if I come up with a tag off the cuff or whatever. I want to remember what it was. But when I started filming, like, with a little bit more intentionality, I found that I was able to edit those clips and grow a following that not only got people to see me, but got, like, people in churches and colleges and clubs to see me. And for me to be able to, like, if I'm going after a club, like if I'm looking for feature headlining work, to be able to say, like, if they're like, where can I see you? I'm just like, you can see me everywhere you think you can see me. So if you go to Instagram or TikTok or YouTube, I'm on there. You can find me. And here's a 5-minute video of my set. But also, I think too often, like, these comics that come through our home club, it's hard to know if they're any good just because they're touring comics, but they don't have any video. And that's really, really difficult to, make a decision on whether or not you're going to go to their show. I don't want that to be the case for me.
Wow, that's great. Yeah. So the footage or the clips on TikTok, is it all from your stand-up, or is there just off the cuff, hey, I'm Adam and I think this is funny, or is it what's on TikTok?
Just the short answer is it's all my stand-up. I have tried to do other things, specifically like tell stories and just to the phone. And I might try to do that again, but I think that I'm learning what I'm good at. And I'm not good. My niche is not, this just happened in the world and I'm going to respond to it. There's a great comic I follow, Dustin Nickerson, who like when the World Cup was going on, he's watching it and he's making jokes about it and he's posting about it. And his clips are blowing up and they did really well. I think, he had a couple that hit over 1 million. That's just not me. And I don't know that I wish it was me. I could be jealous of the accolades that he gets from that, but I think I got to focus on what I'm good at. I am good at preparing a good set, telling good stories, having a joke every 10 seconds, and performing on stage. And so for at least for now and for the foreseeable future, that's what you're going to get. You're going to get clips of me performing in front of an audience that you can watch. It's kind of what I like to watch. And so that's who I am. I'm kind of a straight comic. I don't even post a lot of crowd work. I do a little bit of crowd work, but not very often. And so I'm just like writing all the time. And so that's what you're going to get. A lot of stories and a lot of jokes that I performed in front of an audience.
I really love what you're sharing there about leaning in on your strengths while celebrating other people's strengths and honing in on that so that you can really shine. I think that's solid advice for anybody, no matter what they're doing.
I think it's easy to want, like my buddy that I host my podcast with, he's got a bigger following than I do. He does characters online and
fun.
Yeah. And he's huge. I mean, he's huge on TikTok. He makes a living just off of those characters. Yeah, I would love to be able to do that. I just can't do it. I'm not, this is kind of who I am. If I acted in a movie, it would probably be a version of this. So,
and there are characters like that, Adam, by the way, PT Tubbs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think, I'm just going to be wasting my time if I'm trying to be like somebody else. Just this is what I'm good at. And, there are things that I'm finding I'm better at than other people. I'm a good storyteller. Not a lot of people include stories in their sets. I can take a story that in over 5 or 10 minutes, have a good arc to it and tell a lot of jokes in the middle of it. So that's kind of what you're going to get with me. And I think that's helpful to like, this is my lane. This is sort of where I'm running.
Yeah. Mike Birbiglia is a bit of storyteller for sure. Yeah.
I mean, I mean, there's a reason I won that contest. Like he's been a favorite of mine for a long time. Yeah.
He's hilarious. And let's talk about that too. That was a pretty big deal to win a contest to open up for him on Broadway at the beginning of your stand-up career. I want to hear more about this contest and this experience.
I was watching The Tonight Show and Mike Birbiglia, the comedian. I followed him for, I don't know, probably 15 years. And he was on and he just was promoting a show on Broadway he was doing called The New One. It was his first Broadway show. And he said, we're holding a contest. Make a video of yourself doing one of his old bits, post it online. He was going to pick his favorite one and have you come open for him on Broadway. I remember like thinking like, this is just, I can't think of a more perfect contest that I would want to enter. I know all of his bits. We have similar flavors. We're similar in age and just a lot of similar backgrounds. And just the fact that he's a storyteller. I wasn't thinking about becoming a comedian. I've been a writer for a long time, but my writing has been in television. And so it wasn't even on my radar to become a comedian. And so I just made a video and I posted it. I made it in my car, right before I went in to get a cup of coffee. My wife just videoed it and I was sitting in the driver's seat and then we went and got the coffee and the deadline came and went. I did not think that I had won. And I just got an Instagram notification from him one day and it just said, hey, guess what, Adam, you won.
Oh my God.
And so I know, just like one of the craziest days of my life. And so we went, it was at the Court Theater off Times Square, which is called the James Earl Jones Theater now. It's about 1,100 seats and beautiful, beautiful theater. I think Clockwork Orange was there years and years ago. I read it one time, a lot of famous Broadway shows, and Al Pacino, I think, performed there. And it just,
wow.
kind of a crazy place. I got there and they're like, all right, we're going to do a rehearsal. And this guy by the name of Ira Glass, he's the host of This American Life, who is also a storytelling hero of mine. He introduced me and gave me some tips. And then I went out, I performed it. It was 1 minute long, maybe a minute and a half. And afterwards, the director goes, it's great. If you do it like that, it'd be great. He said, don't forget this. The Broadway theaters are very skinny, so they're up. So there's a mezzanine and a balcony. And I'm only 5'5", so I'm just looking down. And up to that point, I had only ever performed at a church before. And so he said, don't forget that you got the audiences up there. And so I did it one more time and just made sure I looked at the audiences up there. And he was like, that's great. And we did it that night. And then I opened, and then I went and sat in my seat and watched Mike's show. And I after the show was over, I was like, I don't know what his show was about, because I couldn't think about anything else except for what had just happened. And my wife and I went to dinner afterwards, and I was just like, this is the weirdest situation. But what it did tell me, or kind of prompted me to do, was to try to write my own material and perform it, because I thought, if these guys who are professionals liked me enough to pick me, maybe there's something here. And I think it's another good example of just identifying whenever other people maybe comment on your strengths. You're really good at that. You're great at that. When they're encouraging about something, that might be something to look into. And I think that's what happened with me. And so I came home and I went to my first open mic. We only had 2 in the city. So if you missed one, that's it. Kind of bad. Yeah. I mean, one wasn't happening, and it was always the same crowd. It's the same 15 comics. Yeah. So I went to them and just watched, and I was scared to death. And they were in these, shady bars. And then the next week I signed up, and I worked so hard on that 5 minutes, and I went up on stage and did it. It lasted 2 minutes. Okay. but it wasn't terrible. And, I got accolades for not going over my time, which is, is a big deal. That'll get you blacklisted pretty quickly. Yep. So that was the beginning. That was it. And then I was just like, this is a fun hobby. And I took it from there until I started getting booked and realized, like, oh, maybe there's a little bit more to this. And maybe I do kind of like doing this a lot.
A lot.
So yeah.
And you're keeping yourself busy. What is your writing process like for you?
Yeah, I'm always working on my next hour. And so I'm performing tonight. I am performing part of that hour to see if it works, just in a little chunk. I write every day. I write 6 days a week. I always take one day off, and I write for a minimum of 30 minutes. So that basically was just a decision that if for some reason I let the day get away from me and I didn't write that day, if I get in bed, I will write for 30 minutes before I fall asleep. And I heard Jerry Seinfeld say one time, people always say, like, I'm not writing today, but I'm gonna write all day tomorrow. And he's just like, nobody writes all day. Like, it doesn't happen. No. And it's just, writing is laborious. It's so, oh man, it is so exhausting. And so, so I write for a minimum of 30 minutes a day. And for me, it goes like this. When I come up with an idea that I think would be interesting, like whether it's a story or I saw something, I just put it in my phone, just have a note that says jokes. That note is so long.
Yes, right? Same here. Yeah. And
so I do that. So then when I go to write at night, I will, I'll just pick one of those, and then I have a Google Doc, and I just will write it in there. And, I just got to write until I'm done, or like can't think of anything else. The 30 minutes hits. And then I'll try it on stage. And if I feel like any of it's going to work, I'll just keep editing it from there. I'll give something 3 shots. If I'm not getting any laughs on it in 3 shots, then I kick it to the curb.
It's out of here. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then sometimes I've been doing this little exercise for probably about a year now. If I don't have anything that like I can really think about that would push me towards my special, I'll just start reading articles online and see if I can write a joke about any of them. And I'll try to write 5 jokes. I won't stop unless I get 5 jokes. And some of those jokes have made it into my set. Some of them have just been a good exercise. But either way, I think all of it has helped me hopefully become a better writer. I hope.
I think so. You write for TV too, you said? Is that something you're still doing now?
It is. Yeah. So about 6 years ago, well before I was a comedian, I wanted to get into television, and I really like children's television. I love Pixar and Disney. So I wrote a television show for preschoolers that I just thought would be fun. It's called Pete and Penelope. It's a preschool television show. It's puppets, very similar to Sesame Street. It's about some kids that hang out in a treehouse that comes alive whenever they step inside. And I just kept making it. And then I needed to fund the puppets, which were very expensive. And I threw a big party and did a Kickstarter. And this startup network in Los Angeles found it. And they said, hey, we'd love to be in business with you and make a season together. So we made a season and a Christmas special, a series of shorts.
Yeah.
And we're on season 2 now. And then in the middle of it, I got picked up to be a showrunner on this other television show that it's called The Page Finders. It's animated, so we won't see it for probably 5 years. But so that just it's just all in steps. When I got that second show, I had that and enough comedy where I was like, I'm either going to have to quit my job or my family because I can't do everything. And I like my family a lot. So I was like, I better quit my full-time job. And so that's where we are right now.
Okay. One more time with the name of the Penelope. I don't think I have the whole name.
Yeah. It's called Pete and Penelope. Those are the main characters. Okay. Pete and Penelope. And you can see it on YouTube or peteandpenelope.com. Either one.
That sounds pretty fun. You are way more. There's more depth to you than I realized. So I am super excited to get to know you more as we keep working together.
Yeah.
This is great. You've also had, all of us have an adversity, but some of us just have a touch more than others that can be challenging. You are a cancer survivor. And that must have been super hard. I'm sorry to hear that you have gone through that. I am curious about what helped you the most to get through that experience.
Well, I think it's a little misleading in that it's maybe misleading is the wrong word. I had a different story. I was born with cancer.
Oh, wow.
And so we discovered it, my folks figured it out, and the doctors figured it out when I was 3. So by the time I was 4, I was began remission, and that lasts for about 10 years, and it never came back. So I literally have the scars to prove that I had cancer, but it feels like someone else had it. Like I can talk about it because I'm the one missing the kidney, and I'm the one that has a couple of side effects, and I'm the one who can tell stories about it, but it doesn't feel like it happened to me, honestly. The only time I ever feel like it was actually me is I am now part of an adult study where every few years I go out to Memphis, Tennessee to the hospital to do 3 days of tests to see long-term effects of the treatment or how my body has responded to help other kids who have cancer. So that's the only time where I ever really feel like like I'm able to ask questions, like, know, like that's probably the only reason I even know a lot of the specifics about my treatment. So I'll tell you where it really came in. It made me really understand what I experienced was when I had my daughter, or when my wife had our daughter. When
Fair.
which she is at the age right now that I was when I was going through chemotherapy. So one, just to be grateful for her health is huge, but then also to think of my folks who were in their 20s, their early 20s at the time, have a baby, a toddler with cancer, and to see it, or you could see the tumor.
Really?
It was so large.
Wow.
That's when I'm really understand what it was, because I have all the gratitude and thankfulness for them in the world. It's already a lot being a parent, as you know, but to have to walk with a kid who has a terminal disease, and we know the outcome of mine now. Like, there are a lot of parents that like, oh man. Yeah. So, so I don't know if that answers your question, except to tell you, like, that's how it feels.
Yeah. Cause you were so young that it's probably, we don't remember everything. Yeah.
Yeah. I have some pretty vivid memories of different parts, but even then I've heard that like your memories adjust over time, and what you think is like a pretty solid memory is a little askewed. But yeah, I just went back this last fall. Every time I go back to the hospital, I'm like, okay, yeah, I do remember this. Oh man, I'm so thankful that I'm alive. That's what I think. 30, this year will be 38 years.
Wow.
38 years since I was diagnosed.
Wow. I don't think I've ever met anybody personally that, was born into the world with cancer. I know that it happens, but that's
not real common.
No.
Yeah, it's not. No. Yeah. Don't know why. It does not run in my family, but there it is.
Yeah, that is a challenge. I'm thankful that you've overcome it. That's pretty exciting, and that you're able to be a part. Yeah. You're welcome, and be part of a study to help other children. And it's it's so neat too that you're helping other children in the study, but you're also bringing joy to the world with Pete and Penelope. And it sounds like another project, that'll be available for us to see later on. Is Page Finders also for children?
There's a lot of episodes of Pete and Penelope on now. And in the Page Finders, I think we'll probably see the beginnings of it within a year. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, and that show, that's an animated space adventure that's like for like pre-teenage kids.
Oh, very cool. Well, that's exciting stuff. I'm excited for that. Congratulations, by the way, on all those adventures. You're welcome. I was preparing for your interview, speaking of adversity, and I didn't realize that we share something in common, and that is the untimely passing of our fathers. And this, of course, would be after you were diagnosed with cancer, but it impacted my life profoundly and our family's life profoundly. And so I want to ask you, how do you feel that experience of losing your father has changed your life perspective?
What I think the first thing that comes to mind is what really affected my life was how good my father was. I'm very, very, very blessed that I had a very involved in my life, loving father. And I don't take that for granted. It is, it's a lot of situations out there where people don't have a good relationship with their dad. A lot of my friends who don't have a great relationship with their dad. I'm really thankful that I had my dad for 29 years of my life. And I have many, many great memories. I think I even have, there's like, I have a couple of, if you're listening to this, can't see this, but I have a board behind me in my office where I just got some photos of us just at Disney World and,
fun.
visiting a farm. And my dad was just really, really involved in my life. And he was an excellent father, an excellent husband. He never had a wondering eye on my mom. In fact, I was telling my wife the other day, I was like, I never even heard my dad say another woman was pretty. he was committed to my mother, and they had a great relationship. And so I think about that more than anything. I'm thankful that I got 29 awesome years with my dad. And as far as him passing, it was very unexpected. He had a sudden heart attack and was gone. I was just driving, and someone called me and said, "Need you to come to your parents' house," and he was gone. Oh, and sorry. I think that, that just sucks.
Yes, it does.
Losing someone you love so much is just awful. I heard someone say one time that if you have ever walked through a tragedy, it's important to be there for other people who are walking through a similar tragedy. And so I do have a real heart for any of my friends who lose anyone in their life. We just had a friend, her father, very similar situation, great guy, just in his 60s, just cardiac arrest, and he was gone like that. And there's something about saying to your friend, I know, that it just is hard to emulate if you haven't been through that. You know what I mean? I mean, there's a ton, I'm sure you've experienced this.
Yes,
a lot of people who say, "I'm sorry for your loss," and that's really nice, and
it is
very much appreciated.
Yes,
and it's great to hear stories. Somebody say like, "I remember this about your dad," or whatever, and that's great. But there's something else to a friend that came over to my house the day after he passed and just sat there with me and just said, "Yeah, I know what this feels like," because he had lost his father too. There's something powerful about that. And so probably the biggest thing I'd say is thankful that I had a great dad. And I am thankful that I'm able to be there for other people who lose loved ones as well.
I agree with that. I've been given multiple opportunities to be there for someone else who has experienced that kind of.
How long ago did your father pass away?
He fell from the second story of our deck of our home 3 days before I started my freshman year in college.
Oh, man.
And then he was in a coma for 8.5 months before he passed. So it wasn't immediate. It was a elongated experience. So that is, golly. I'm so sorry. Yeah, well, thank you. So that's 32 years ago now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Man,
well, maybe a little bit 32. Longer than that. Roughly.
Okay.
Yeah. 32, 33.
Yeah, that's a lifetime.
It is. It is. And that has an impact. You get married and you go through life celebrations and they're not able to be a part of it. Did you get married after your father passed or before?
Yeah. Yeah. He met my wife one time when we were dating. Her and I got married. We had a very short engagement and we got married a year after he passed. And it's true. It's you grieve new things. I grieved the loss of him being a father-in-law, and then I grieved when he wasn't a grandfather. I had the first grandkid in our family, and so he would have been a great grandfather, and so I grieved that. And then other significant moments in my life that aren't as significant, but even the Broadway thing, he would have been so proud of me, and he would have been there, and. Just when I sold my first television show, he would have been so proud. He was a puppeteer when I was a kid.
Oh, really?
He's really the reason I even liked puppets at all. And I got to go to Sesame Street when I was making my television show. He would have come with me. He would have loved it. So, I'm about to have another kid. He's, grieve that as well.
Yeah.
So, I think grief is like a tunnel. And you're in the sunshine. I would say today for me is a sunshiny day in regards to my father, but there'll be something that'll just
trigger,
and then you're in that tunnel again. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. It kind of carries with you It's kind of always there in the background. My therapist says every day is grief and gratitude, and I think that's so wise. Something to be thankful.
Spot on.
It is something you're excited about. Congratulations on your second kid, by the way.
Oh, thanks. Thank you.
Speaking of which, yeah, that's going to be fun. When, and then something you're sad about. So when are you due, or when is your wife due? I should say.
Yeah, we're about halfway. We're about halfway. So it's our second kid, and we're stoked. Our daughter is so excited, and to be a big sister, and it's a big year change at the old Bush house.
And your daughter, how old did you say your daughter was? I think I'm 4.
She's
maybe?
4. She's 4. Okay. She'll be almost 5 when.
Okay. She have her big sister shirt yet?
She doesn't, but she does say, she told somebody at the coffee, she's so extroverted. She told a stranger today, she said, I'm going to have a baby sister. Her name is Ira, and I'm going to be a big helper. And I was like, hey, this is all great.
She's proud already. That's going to be a lot of fun.
Oh, yes.
Speaking of celebrations, you performed your first full-length hour-long special, A Night of Storytelling and Comedy in Tulsa, Oklahoma in 2021 at Notion Tulsa. What inspired you to do a special at that point in your career? That's pretty early, really.
It is early. It is very early. I would say it's too early to do a full comedy special. Maybe not too early to do a storytelling comedy special, which is how I got away with it. So I had been a writer professionally. Like I had a job as a writer for about 10 years. And when I started doing comedy, it really goes back to understanding like I got to get some of my stuff on video, or I just like the simplicity of like a club. Like trying to get booked at a club or anywhere who hadn't seen me, I needed a video. And so I, as soon as the pandemic started to lighten up, and in Tulsa, it was a lot faster. I mean, if you watch the video, you'll see people wearing their masks. But I thought, you know what? I can't do an hour of comedy, but I can do an hour of storytelling and comedy. And so if you go back and watch, you'll see that. I'll try to go in order. So I wanted to do a video. Additionally, I don't know that I like specifically knew it wasn't just like so laid out for me at the moment where I was just like, all right, I'm going to do an hour and I'm going to video it. And then I'm going to use that as my piece to get into clubs or wherever. I wasn't thinking that clearly, although you should. All I was thinking at the moment was, I do want to get some of my stuff on video, but I knew when I became a comic, I really wanted to be closer to Birbiglia's style of long form stories. I really want to say something. I love great comedy, and man, there are some comics that like can just make me laugh for a full hour, but I don't know that my strength is just like joke. I mean, you think about Mitch Hedberg and just like how he's like a joke is like 2 sentences. Yeah, I got a few of those, but that was what he was great at.
Yeah, king of one-liners.
I'm good on. Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah. I'm better at taking you on a journey. So I knew pretty early on, I wanted to do a full one-man show. And so I said, all right, I don't have it yet, and I don't exactly know how it's going to go. We're coming out of lockdown. I would love to get on stage and get an audience together. And so I'm going to use this opportunity to get to my special, because that's one thing about comics in my on my level, which is very low. I don't get the opportunity to. I can't go up 6 times a night. It's not available to me. And additionally, I can't tour the country nonstop for a year to get to my hour. No, I won't be able to book that many shows.
Right.
So especially shows where I would be able to do an hour, like I'm not Taylor Tomlinson, that would be insanity. Yeah. So I was just like, what I can do is I can work really hard on an hour. It's everything I can think of that I've done, stories, all my jokes for 1 hour. I'll put it in some sort of order. I'll invite a crowd. I hope they'll come. I'll charge $5 to cover the coffee bar. And thankfully people wanted to do it. So I was able to sell 2 nights of the show. I didn't make $1 on it. But that wasn't the goal. The goal was, can I get this out there? And what would it look like to even begin the journey of doing a full one-man show that's one story? And I just happened to call some friends and be like, hey, will you help me film this? I had some cameras. And it's amazing how it's sort of a magnet. My buddy was like, I'll film it. And he's like, and I've got 2 more cameras that are the same. And then another guy that we asked to come help, he's like, I'll bring my camera. And it was the same. So we ended up with a 7 camera shoot.
Oh, wow.
It was just going to be 2 cameras. And he was just like,
so great.
And, I just had these guys who were just like, yeah, we want to, let's do a really good job. And it's great that we're doing this second night. That'll be the prep. We'll film it, but that'll be like just the opportunity for you and then to practice. And then we'll do the second night. And then suddenly, accidentally, I was left with an hour-long video that I could use for, I called in every favor I could. I could use it to make a 5-minute video for clubs, and I could start to post clips online. And then as I was editing together, I was like, you know what is it going to hurt me to just release this whole thing? It's called A Night of Storytelling and Comedy. People see it for what it is. And it really did well on TikTok specifically. And the clips have just, I think, especially when you're a beginning comic, use whatever you can to stand out, especially online. For me, I had some experience with production value or quality. And so I used that. So if you go and watch my videos, even if you don't like a joke, the 2 things that'll stick out is it'll look great and it'll sound great. And that's where most comics really mess up, is their videos don't sound great. And so that I have put those clips online before multiple times, and multiple times they've garnered 100,000 views, and I posted again. It's like another 50,000 views. And it's like, that's the same video.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't stress enough, like, being intentional. I did it accidentally, but being intentional to write a good set, get a good group of people, pick a good spot. I picked a very dark building with a very low ceiling. I did it in the round so that the video looked really good. And then I edited it, and I paid to have the audio mastered really well. And that has really benefited me. And that led me to understand like what I really wanted a one-man show to feel like. And so I took the next 2 years to take pieces of it, but to rework things. And I filmed my first one-man show. I filmed my first one-man show last November, and it's called Who Brought the Kid? And it'll be out in the next couple of months.
Oh, that's exciting. So you self-produced both of those shows yourself. Yes. Okay. What was the most challenging part about self-producing those shows?
You mean you got to do the writing and the directing?
Yeah.
You know, it's I think that that's a good question. What is it's expensive, you know?
Yeah.
My first one didn't cost as much as the second one, but it's kind of figuring it out. Like, all right, like I would say, do it in this order. Get your set together first. Get your jokes and be like, okay, these are my jokes. This is what's going to happen. So that part's taken care of. And then say, okay, now where is it going to be?
Yeah.
Who's going to come? Who's going to film it?
Yeah.
Who's going to do the audio? Yeah. And then from there, who's going to edit it? Who's going to post the audio? Who's going to do the graphics? Like, how's that all going to happen? So, you know, the first one, especially, you might be pulling in a lot of favors, but I'd say do it, you know, ask people to help you out. People like working on fun, creative projects. It will pay you dividends. That video has paid me back in so many ways, even monetarily. And I'm thankful that I stumbled upon that opportunity.
Oh, monetarily through YouTube, I guess. Is that what you mean by?
I would say more specifically through the work that I've gotten from it.
I got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. People, I mean, it really doesn't take much for somebody to see one video and be like, hey, will you come headline, especially for corporate gigs? I've gotten a lot of corporate gigs at Christmas. Those aren't the most fun gigs, but they're the best paying. So
yes.
I'll tell you what it does. If you work hard to make a video, let's say you weren't doing a special, let's say you were doing a 20-minute video and you're just like, this is what I can afford. Then taking the time to make a quality 5-minute video and be able to send that to, what did I do? I just did a Christmas event for a pipe company. It shows that I'm serious about it. Mm-hmm. Right? The graphics look great. It shows that I'm serious about it. The audio is great. It shows no one's having to be like, well, it doesn't sound great, but I bet it's pretty good. It speaks for itself. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So doing that hard work, like I would say that one Christmas gig, it paid for the whole thing. And I get to perform again. I'll probably get another gig off of that. So it's a worthy investment.
Worth the time. And then you got to, definitely. I hear that. And then you got to go do a special where they kind of do all of that for you. And you just got to show up and get it done. And that's with Dry Bar Comedy, which that special you did for them is going to release here in 2023, which is exciting. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's you're welcome. And that's a different, that's flipped where they are doing the producing and you're focusing on the performing. So what was that film? What was it like filming that with them? Your special with them?
Honestly, it wasn't, for one, I got that off of the video that I shot myself. So I think that's important to note. It was very random. Someone was looking for a clean comedian for a church. I sent them that video. They came back and said, I have a relationship with Dry Bar. Could I submit you? And I said, yes. Go for it. Of course I said yes.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah. The nice thing was I had already been through a filming of my own. So I was able to understand what was happening around me, focus on my thing. And having shot my own video, I could go back and watch it and be like, which jokes actually hit and which ones didn't. And I think that's a big issue with comics today is comics in general. It feels like someone does a set on stage, they come down and they're like, that joke killed. And you want to be like, I don't think it did, man. Like, I think you have laughing ears when it comes to that joke. You heard one person over here, and I cannot undervalue how important it is to be honest with your set. And it's really hard to be dishonest if you watch it on video and actually hear whether or not people laughed. And so when I watched my set, because mine was an hour, Dry Bar is only 25 minutes, you want to get 20, 23 minutes of, once it's edited it down. I'd be like, okay, these are the jokes I know are hitting. All right, so I'm going to do those and let's figure out the rest of it and what order can I put it into. So that, I think, was probably the most beneficial part of having shot it before and then going to Dry Bar and then just understanding, like, having filmed my special, edited it, and then watched it, I was able to even understand, like, what it felt like to perform for the camera because of the things that I had done wrong in my own special. So it really, like, I'm learning every opportunity just kind of builds to the next.
That's exactly what I was hearing. You took the words right out of my mouth there.
That's what I do.
Yeah, you're a wordsmith for sure, and multiple mediums. You also have a podcast called Risk It for the Biscuit. It just cracks me up.
Yeah.
Risk It for the Biscuit. I have to know, what is your podcast all about? Why the name too, by the way?
I worked at a church for 15 years. It was an amazing job. I am eternally grateful that I ever had that experience. Towards the end of that 15 years is when my comedy started to pick up, and I realized I could make a step away from my 9 to 5 into being self-employed and being a comedian. At the exact same time, my best friend, Chris Munch, was doing the same thing. He was going into comedy and acting. We worked at the same church. And as we both stepped away and we were doing the living within the world of comedy, we realized that we'd love to kind of document it along the way for our friends and just for people, anybody who might be interested in this journey. And the title came just because it was a joke. We just kept saying, we filmed like 8 episodes before we had a title, and we just kept saying we're risking it for the biscuit, which is an amazing title just for, 2 middle-aged guys who are risking it all for comedy. And we were down to the wire. I'm like, we need to post it posts tomorrow. And we're just like, I guess we're going with risking for the biscuit. So
it's stuck.
So it's stuck. And it really is. If, my favorite comedians, I love 2023 because you get to hear more than just their comedy. You get to hear what their life is about. I mentioned that comic, Dustin Nickerson. He's got a podcast called Don't Make Me Come Back There. And his wife is on it. And I feel like I know him. And that's really fun,
Yeah,
to be able to. Yeah. So every week, every Wednesday, we post a new episode, and we are just talking about where we are in our career. And we've got a producer there, and he talks on it too. And just give people kind of if they like our stuff, cool. You get a little bit more of us. If you think it's interesting what it would look like to leave your cushy job after 15 years, this is what it's like. So that's it.
Here's the day to day. Yeah, you can find that. Is your podcast available wherever you can listen to podcasts? I take it.
Yeah. YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, you can hear it. And it posts every Wednesday morning, once a week.
Yeah, that's when we drop, every Wednesday. So we're on the same rhythm.
It's a good day for all my favorite podcasts are on Wednesday.
Look at us haphazardly doing something right. That's great. That's great. Well, as we wrap up here, what are you looking forward to the most about coming to the Shenandoah Valley again to perform?
Something I think is a trap that's easy to fall into if you are a comic is staying in your region. And I'll start off like this. I did a show in New York, and I got booked for 7 minutes kind of early on. And the first 3.5 minutes went great. It was just some family stuff that were jokes. And then the last 3.5, I just bombed, just hardest bomb of my life. And it was all about growing up in Louisiana. And I got off stage. I realized nobody in New York knows anything about Louisiana. And somebody told me, oh, New Jersey is our Louisiana. And I was like, okay, well, this is an elementary little education for old Adam. Sometimes jokes are regional, and that's cool. There's nothing wrong with a joke being regional, but you might not want to do it somewhere else. So I try as much as I can to get where are we going? Virginia is pretty far from us. In fact, I did a show in Virginia last week, and it's so nice to be able to see if a joke hits outside of your normal area, and if it does, that's a keeper, man. So that's what I've got a great set that I'm really excited about right now. It's something that's leading into the next special in the next couple of years. It's mostly about having cancer, so that's going to be really fun.
and healing, by the way. Yeah. So I'm excited to do new material. I'm excited to perform for an audience outside of my region, and you guys are just a great time, great audience, and so I'm excited to be back. Yeah, that's great. We can't wait to have you back. So we'll have to ask this next question so people can connect with you and follow you. So how is the best way for them to do that on social media or otherwise to connect with you?
Yeah. Everything is the same at Hey Adam Bush. Instagram and TikTok are my number ones, but anything else that, any other social media you want to follow me on is great too. But at Hey Adam Bush, you can see my clips every day or two. You'll see a new clip from me. You can also go to heyadambush.com, sign up for my newsletter. You'll be one of the first to know when my Dry Bar special hits, when my one-man show hits, when a new podcast episode comes out. And but I'm pretty dang active. So you hit up one of those, you're gonna see a lot of this face.
A lot of this great face too, by the way, Laughers.
Oh, thank you.
You are welcome. And we'll be sure to put that information for Adam Bush in the show notes for you as well. His social media handles, his website, his everything. And thank you so much, Adam. This has been so great chatting with you today. Thanks again for coming on the show.
Happy to be here. Thank you. See you soon.
See us soon indeed. Laughers, you can see Adam perform live on Saturday, February 25th, as he helps us kick off the second season of the X2 comedy series at Court Square Theater in Harrisonburg, Virginia. Plus, you'll see 4 other comedians on this show, including yours truly, that's me, Chris Womack, Noah Miller, and headliner Joey I.L.O. We can't wait. Buy your tickets today at x2comedy.com. We'll be sure to put the link in the show notes. Season tickets are also available for the 6-show series throughout the year, featuring 6 different hilarious lineups. It's a great deal where you get 6 shows for the price of 4. Available for purchase at x2comedy.com. And lastly, and most importantly, thanks for tuning in, Laughers. Out of all the podcasts out there, you picked us, and we think that's pretty darn special, just like you. Until next time, keep smiling. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Virginia is for Laughers podcast, brought to you by X2 Comedy. We'll be dropping a new podcast every Wednesday, so check back for another uplifting episode. Come to an X2 Comedy show or let us bring one to you. To find out more, head to x2comedy.com. Be sure to share this podcast with a friend, and until next time, cheers.